Hello and welcome to Teacher Perspective. My name is Ross and I thank you very much for checking out this video. Today we're going to be looking at seating plans. We're going to be thinking about what they are and how teachers make the decision about where pupils will be sat within the classroom. Now, first of all, just cast your mind back to when you were at school. At the very beginning of the academic year, you may have a new teacher and maybe even a new classroom that you're going into. You'll notice that the resources for the learning that's about to take place is all around the outside of the room and that the displays are clean, they're ready for whatever it is that the teacher is going to be putting up on them. The chairs and tables have also been set, and that's something that the teacher has made a decision about. They don't just randomly place those tables, believe it or not. We really think about where the children are going to be sat within the classroom. Now, more often than not, this can be something that's a little bit worrisome for children. I know whilst I was at school, I was maybe concerned about who I was going to be sat next to. Am I going to be near to my friends? Am I going to be sat next to a girl? It was the kind of thing that would bother me right at the very start of the year, and perhaps it's similar for other people as well. I apologise for my cat that's just jumped into the back of the video there. So I get a lot of communication from parents and from pupils about where they are sat in the classroom. And understandably, they're sat there for a very long time, and it can be something that seems very, very important to them. I'm not trying to diminish the importance of where you sit in the classroom, but I think once parents and pupils really understand why we do this, it'll just give a little bit more clarity and transparency as to why we do it. And that's the entire reason of Teacher Perspective. Now, the first thing that I'm going to mention is that teachers generally do have a lot of autonomy about how they set up their classroom. Some schools do have quite strict, regimented rules on what tables should look like within the classroom and how children should be sat, but generally teachers do have a lot of autonomy, and we're going to briefly outline some of the ways teachers make those decisions. Now, the first thing that I'm going to speak about is behaviour. Behaviour management is key to every single teacher's toolkit. When teachers really think about how to manage a classroom, being able to manage behaviour is one of the most important things. If children are not behaving, if they're being disruptive, effective learning simply cannot take place. Now, when children are in the classroom, even the absolute saints of children, so yes, your child too, will try to push boundaries in one way or the other. With some children, this could be shouting out, throwing things, being really quite disruptive. For others, it might just be whispering and chatting to their friends. And whilst it might seem like that's really low level disruption, it's impacting their learning. If they're talking to their friends, children generally aren't that good at multitasking. If they're talking to their friends, they're probably not going to be listening to the teacher, which is not to the benefit of their learning. Now, what we say as teachers is it's abundantly clear that when you sit two friends next to each other, that's not the most effective way for them to teach. Just think about the last time you were maybe in a staff meeting or work meeting, when you were sat next to one of your close colleagues, you probably chat away to them, you probably speak to them, and it's no different with children. I know you can imagine what it was like when you were at school, and I bet you're sitting there thinking, yes, that's exactly what it was like for me. Now, a lot of this comes down to the idea of what's known as covert and overt prestige. And this is a psychological theory that basically says in order to fit into a social group, we kind of just do what everyone else does. Imagine you've got two pupils, two best friends, sat next to each other. They know the rules of the classroom are don't speak whilst the teacher is speaking, because it interrupts their learning and it can be distracting to others as well. Now, imagine pupil A starts chatting, starts speaking to the person next to them. Their best friend has then got a decision to make. Either they go against what their friend is doing, covert prestige, and ignore them and try and follow the rules of the classroom, or they go with what their friend is doing, overt prestige, because they want to strengthen that relationship, strengthen that bond of friendship between them. That kid's got a decision to make, Are the rules of the class more important so that they fit in with that social group? Or is it the rule of being friends with their partner? Is that more important? Do they want to stick with that social group? And in that case, they may start talking with each other. Now, to avoid that completely, Teachers, as they get to know the class, probably will split friendship groups up. They probably will. I know I do it. I keep friends as far away from each other as they can because my job isn't to let them socialise with their pals. That's for break and lunchtime and for some group activities. But generally, my job's to educate them, is to give them information, to give them knowledge and teach them skills. When they're away from their friends, they're best at doing that. Now, it's really important that we have children who maybe struggle to follow those rules sat next to children that are really good at following those rules, because they can be a good model for a child that's maybe finding it difficult to listen, difficult to concentrate. They will want to generally try and copy what the more well-behaved child is doing. I put it like this because there are no bad children. You know, I always tell the kids, it's you and your behavior. These are two different things. You know, it's not that I'm upset with you, I'm upset with your behavior. I really try and embed that with them because it's so important for their sort of self-esteem and their perception of self. You know, if they think they're a bad child, a naughty child, things just spiral out. I'll do a video on this at some point as well, just the importance of the language that we're using with children. So that's the first part. With behavior, you generally want to have friendship groups apart from each other, and you want them to be able to follow good models. So on each table, on each sort of pairing, you want a really good model pupil with maybe a child that finds it a little bit trickier to listen. Just quickly on that as well, generally, and I'm speaking in very general terms here, boys and girls of younger ages don't really mix. They like to stay within their own boys or girls, their sort of like gender profile, right? And because of that, it's likely that boys will not be sat together and girls will not be sat together. It will be boy-girl pairings. And I know from a fact, whether it's children lining up at a door or sitting down in the classroom, I put them in boy-girl, and it changes the behaviour of the class. If I ever let them just go and choose who they're standing next to in the line's really noisy. They're all chatting to each other, boys and girls. So as soon as you start mixing them up, as much as they all moan and groan about it, it really is better for them. So the next important thing to consider is about how the tables are situated. It's much easier to get children to look forward and concentrate when they're actually facing the board. So you've got to try your best to make sure the seats and the tables are in a way where children can move their head like this and be able to see pretty much everything in the room. If you've got children with their back to the board, it's going to be hard to get them to listen because it's uncomfortable to be doing that all the time. They don't want to have to do that. So you really need to think about the way the tables are placed so that they can face forward. It really is essential that they can see the teacher, and follow those instructions. It's easier to understand when you're looking directly at someone what it is that they're saying. Just to say as well, obviously this is in rather general terms. I know that a lot of people maybe have their own ways of really listening. Maybe they enjoy fiddling with something just whilst they're listening, but in general terms, this is really what we're looking for. The next sort of pairings that I want to talk about is the idea of children who are deemed lower ability or maybe not attaining quite as high standards as other children. I want to really mix those up. We say like lower ability, higher ability, because if there's a lower ability child sat next to a lower ability child, they're really only seeing one level of work being completed. If they're sat next to a child who's blitzing through the work that the teacher's given them, completing tasks, completing more challenging tasks, it really spurs them on. Now, it's important, of course, that the teacher speaks to them and make sure that they're not feeling sort of deflated by seeing someone else doing so much more work than them. Because if you really guide the child properly, they'll see that as a motivator and they'll move on to really trying to achieve that as well. It's helpful too that the higher ability child is maybe supporting the lower ability child, because for a higher ability child to explain how to complete a task or how to do something within maths, if they can explain that to someone else, it really helps them consolidate their knowledge, and it's really beneficial to the higher ability children as well. So that's basically what we're gonna leave it just there, because that's quite a long video. But the whole point of the seating plan really is just for the effectiveness within the classroom of making sure children are getting the most out of their learning possible. Make sure that they're not sat with their friends, potentially sat boy, girl, having mixed ability seating so that we've got children who are struggling next to children that are thriving, but doing really well.
and then also that they're sat in a position where they can see the whole room, so it's easy for them to look around. And the other thing that I actually missed mentioning there was the setup of the class, to make sure the teacher can easily access the children, the tables aren't cordoned off. You can easily look over the shoulder of any child to check the work that they're getting on with and check their understanding. So, these are the things. Maybe you already know where your child is sitting. Please mention in the comments. If you've got questions about why your child might be sitting a certain way, perhaps I can help. But overall, I would really implore you just to go and speak to the class teacher. I'm sure they'll be able to give you a good rationale of why they've decided to sit your child in that position. But, if you're educators, you've got anything to add, any theories or research that you want to share, if you're a teacher, share your seating plan. Tell us how you've done it. That'd be great to know. Thank you very much again for watching this video. My name is Ross. This is Teacher Perspective. Hope you have a lovely day.